At just 17 years old, James, Earl of Wessex, has stepped into royal history by officially accepting the title His Royal Highness Prince James of Edinburgh. The move, quietly approved by King Charles III in March 2025, marks the return of a new generation to the working crown. After years of living privately with his parents, Prince Edward and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, James's decision signals more than a name change. It's a declaration of service. Calm, educated, and grounded, the young prince has become the monarchy's newest hope for stability in a modern, uncertain age. The quiet royal steps into history. It was March 2025, just months before his 18th birthday, when the news quietly surfaced in palace circles. James, Earl of Wessex, had accepted the long-dormant title of His Royal Highness Prince James of Edinburgh. Few expected it. For 17 years, the youngest child of Prince Edward and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, had lived far from the spotlight, content with his school routines and countryside weekends. Now, a single decision placed him in the royal line not just by blood, but by declaration. Court officials confirmed that by April 2025, the style HRH Prince James appeared in internal briefings, ceremonial drafts, and the order of precedence. The timing raised eyebrows. It came 6 months before his majority, suggesting something planned, not spontaneous. Insiders whispered that King Charles III and Prince William had quietly guided the move, preparing the monarchy's next generation for service. For James, this was no simple title. It was a step into history. The monarchy he joined was changing, thinner and more exposed than ever before. At 17, he became a symbol of continuity in a family wrestling with relevance. The announcement rippled through palace corridors like quiet thunder. Courtiers exchanged nods. Journalists refreshed pages, waiting for confirmation. To the public, it seemed sudden, but those close to the family knew it had been years in the making. A teenager's choice now carried the weight of a crown's future. Behind the calm statement lay a long debate about what duty should mean in the 21st century. And for James, that conversation had begun long before this spring evening. A decision years in the making. The roots of this moment reached back to 1999, when Prince Edward and Sophie Rhys-Jones married and asked Queen Elizabeth II to forego HRH titles for their future children. Their goal was simple: give them a normal childhood. For more than 2 decades, that decision shielded Lady Louise and James from royal pressures and the constant flash of cameras. It worked, but it also created a quiet contradiction. James grew up between 2 worlds: private student at Bradfield College, yet grandson to a monarch. His classmates saw him as James Windsor, not royalty, though his lineage carried centuries of expectation. By 2020, the monarchy's landscape had changed. Prince Andrew's disgrace, Harry and Meghan's exit, and the passing of Queen Elizabeth II in 2022 left gaps no one expected. Every family gathering since had carried the question, when would the next generation step forward? The issue lingered for years, unresolved but unavoidable. The balance between normality and duty could not last forever. So when James finally chose to accept HRH in 2025, he wasn't defying his parents' wishes. He was completing the circle they began. He was no longer the boy protected from royalty. He was the young man ready to strengthen it. Inside Buckingham Palace, aides described the moment as the closing of a chapter. What began in 1999 as an experiment in modern parenting had become a lesson in monarchy's limits. The quiet Windsor childhood had served its purpose, but adulthood demanded service. As one senior courtier put it, you can't slim the family forever. The next step, many believed, was inevitable. And as the crown searched for new energy, James's acceptance marked the point where a private life turned into public responsibility. The slimmed-down monarchy reaches its limits. King Charles's streamlined vision, announced soon after his coronation in 2023, was meant to modernize the crown. Fewer working royals, lower costs, sharper focus. But by late 2024, the plan was straining. With Prince Andrew sidelined, Harry and Meghan abroad, and health challenges facing both the King and Catherine, Princess of Wales, the working roster had shrunk to barely a dozen. Engagements were piling up, and entire regions of the Commonwealth went months without royal presence. Behind closed doors, Prince William voiced concern. "We can't do this with 8 people," he reportedly told aides during a November 2024 strategy meeting. He urged for new, young faces, steady, scandal-free, relatable. James fit perfectly, calm, private, raised with humility, but trained in royal discipline. Buckingham courtiers described his image as fresh air after a storm. No controversies, no headlines, just a quiet heir to responsibility. In him, William saw not just relief, but renewal. The monarchy's thin ranks had met their limit. The slimmed-down model, though efficient on paper, couldn't sustain public expectation. James's acceptance of HRH wasn't just personal. It was practical, an answer to the institution's fatigue. As new duties were quietly mapped for the young prince, optimism flickered through royal offices. The monarchy had found its missing link, not in a celebrity, but in a student who valued duty over drama. Next came the turning point no one saw: his sister's refusal of the same title and the new burden that fell on him alone. In family conversations and whispered palace meetings, that decision would reshape not only James's path, but the entire rhythm of the modern crown. The turning point. When Lady Louise Windsor turned 18 in November 2021, many expected her to follow royal tradition and assume her HRH title. Instead, she declined. Her choice, quiet, thoughtful, and entirely her own, shocked royal commentators. "I want to finish my education and find my path before taking on that kind of responsibility," she had reportedly told friends. Her decision drew public admiration. For a generation weary of duty without purpose, Louise's independence felt refreshing, a royal choosing freedom over formality. But her refusal created an unexpected vacuum. The Wessex line, once considered a modest offshoot of the monarchy, suddenly became crucial in the royal balance. Without Louise's presence in the official fold, attention turned toward James, then only 15 years old. His calm nature had always been noted by his teachers at Bradfield College. His quiet discipline reminding courtiers of his grandfather, Prince Philip. In him, senior royals began to see not a spare heir, but a future stabilizer. Privately, Prince William and Catherine discussed with Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, the long-term shape of the monarchy. With the family's younger members scattered or absent, James's name surfaced often in these confidential conversations. His sister's refusal had placed him in a unique position. He could either continue their quiet privacy or carry the family's unclaimed legacy forward. When Louise said no, she didn't reject duty forever. She redefined it. But in doing so, she shifted the balance of royal expectation to her brother. Her independence became the spark that reignited the family's path toward the crown. And for James, That silent nudge became the call to step up. After Louise's 2021 decision, insiders say palace discussions grew more focused on James. The quiet teenager had never sought attention, but destiny was forming around him. His maturity impressed everyone who met him, especially Catherine, who admired his calm curiosity. Within 3 years, those small family talks evolved into formal conversations. The question was no longer if, but when. And by the start of 2025, it became clear. James would do what his sister would not, and he would do it on his own terms. A prince by choice. In early January 2025, at just 17 years old, James faced a choice few his age could comprehend: whether to remain a private citizen or step publicly into royal service. "This has to be his decision," Sophie told palace aides firmly. "We will not pressure him." The discussion stretched over several weeks, sometimes late into the night at Bagshot Park, the family's quiet home outside London. During those evenings, James listened, more than he spoke. Unlike generations before him, James was not born automatically into his title. His parents had deliberately delayed the style, allowing him freedom. This made his acceptance profoundly symbolic, a voluntary act, not an inheritance. It represented a monarchy evolving by consent, not command. And that, observers said, might be the most modern gesture yet. Sources close to the family revealed that Catherine, Princess of Wales, played a quiet but important role. She encouraged James to think about service as choice, not sacrifice. "Duty isn't about losing yourself," she reportedly told him during a private family lunch at Windsor. "It's about using who you already are." Her words left a lasting mark. When James finally informed the king in March 2025 that he wished to assume HRH, the letter was handwritten, understated, and direct. Those close to him say the tone reflected his personality: calm, respectful, resolute. The king's approval was almost immediate. For once, the crown wasn't passed down. It was reached for willingly. The quiet decision at Bagshot Park soon traveled through palace corridors, reaching Buckingham and Clarence House. Senior staff began updating ceremonial lists, preparing the legal wording for the style, His Royal Highness Prince James of Edinburgh. Yet behind the polished paperwork was something personal: a young man stepping into purpose. What followed next would confirm it wasn't just a family gesture. It was a strategic royal move. And at its center stood King Charles III, guiding the institution's next evolution with quiet intent. Behind the palace doors, King Charles's strategic approval. When King Charles III received James's formal letter in March 2025, those present said he smiled faintly before signing his approval. For the monarch, approaching his 75th birthday in November 2025, this wasn't sentiment, it was strategy. The royal ranks had grown dangerously thin. With engagements outpacing capacity, he needed a new generation to shoulder the load. James's composure and discretion impressed him deeply, reminding Charles of his mother's steady poise during crises of the 1950s. In the weeks that followed, palace communications teams prepared subtle adjustments. By April 2025, James's new title appeared in rehearsal scripts for summer garden parties and the Trooping the Color program. Courtiers called it a quiet restoration. The king reportedly told aides, "He's ready. He's his mother's calm and his grandfather's discipline." To him, James represented both tradition and renewal. The balance every monarch hopes for, but few achieve. Royal commentators noted that Charles's decision echoed his mother's wisdom: Restore, don't rush. The Queen's motto, never complain, never explain, had guided him for decades, and now it shaped how he integrated his nephew into royal life. There were no press conferences, no lavish announcements, just subtle changes in titles, lists, and invitations. It was monarchy by precision, not publicity. Behind the public restraint lay deeper intent. Insiders said the king viewed James as a stabilizing force for the next 30 years, a loyal support to Prince William and Catherine. The monarchy, once stretched to its edge, now had another foundation stone in place. For Charles, the move was more than approval. It was succession planning in motion. As the ink dried on the king's signature, word spread through the senior offices of Buckingham Palace. The Prince of Edinburgh's line is restored. It marked the beginning of a carefully mapped phase, the gradual return of younger royals into visible service. James, once the quiet teenager at Windsor events, would soon appear beside William and Catherine at state functions. Yet before he stepped into that light, one more person would guide him, the steady voice who had shaped this journey all along, his mother, Sophie. The Duchess of Edinburgh's quiet influence. In the calm halls of Bagshot Park, Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, wrestled with a mother's two instincts, protect and prepare. For nearly 18 years, she had guarded her children from the weight of royal expectation. When talk first began in late 2024 about James taking the HRH style, she hesitated. Friends recalled her saying, "He's still my boy, not a public figure." Yet Sophie was no stranger to duty. Since marrying Prince Edward in 1999, she had watched the monarchy evolve through triumphs and turmoil, always keeping her head low and her heart steady. The turning point came one quiet morning in January 2025. After a briefing at Buckingham Palace, Sophie left the meeting reflective, aware of the institution's growing strain. Reports of King Charles's reduced schedule and Catherine's health recovery circulated. "They need stability," she told her husband that night. Edward nodded in silence. It was then she understood. The family could no longer stay half in, half out. The crown needed every loyal shoulder it could find. By February, Sophie began gently speaking to James about what service really meant. She didn't urge or persuade. She shared memories. She told him about the late Queen Elizabeth II, about how kindness could be stronger than command. "If you choose this," she said, "make it your own. Don't copy anyone. Lead quietly." Those words became his private creed. When she finally agreed to his HRH transition, her statement was modest but powerful. "If he must serve," she told a friend, "let him serve on his own terms." That blessing turned hesitation into conviction. Sophie's quiet guidance became the moral compass behind her son's historic step. After Sophie's blessing, the palace wheels began turning faster. Court officials finalized paperwork, the king's aides confirmed scheduling, and the Edinburgh title, once carried by Prince Philip, was again threaded through the monarchy's present. For James, his mother's faith steadied him. For the palace, her approval legitimized the move. By spring, attention shifted to what kind of prince he would become. The next chapter was not about protocol or ceremony. It was about the making of a modern royal, grounded in humility and purpose. The modern prince. Even with his new HRH status, Prince James of Edinburgh insisted life at Bradfield College continue unchanged. His school friends still called him James, not Your Highness. Teachers noted no difference. He arrived punctually at 8 a.m., submitted essays, and stayed out of gossip. "He's polite, reserved, and focused," one tutor remarked in May 2025. This balance between royal expectation and student normality defined him from the start. Within palace circles, plans took shape for his first official duties later that year: youth initiatives, environmental partnerships, and educational charities. These mirrored modern royal themes led by Prince William and Catherine. "He represents the future tone," said one aide. "No glamour, no noise, just quiet work." The palace hoped his low-key personality would resonate with younger Britons tired of celebrity culture. Public fascination grew after rare photos showed James helping unload boxes at a charity drive in Reading. The images, simple and unscripted, went viral across social media. Commenters praised his authenticity. "No drama, no headlines, just action," wrote one user. At 17, he had become a contrast to the tabloid-driven royal narrative of the past decade. Even senior courtiers drew parallels to a young Prince William in the early 2000s. Steady, thoughtful, and aware that leadership is earned slowly. The palace began quietly positioning James as the bridge between the sheltered Windsor world and modern British youth. His calmness became his signature trait, an unintentional echo of the late Queen Elizabeth's timeless composure. By summer 2025, the public conversation had shifted from surprise to pride. News outlets framed him as the monarchy's gentle revival, a living proof that grace still mattered. But outside the UK, diplomats were also watching. Commonwealth partners in Canada, Australia, and New Zealand viewed James's emergence as a signal of renewed royal continuity. And as the world discussed his debut, one question echoed through headlines: how would this young prince's rise reshape the future strength of the crown itself? Public reaction and international ripples. The official announcement broke on April 12, 2025, through a modest press release from Buckingham Palace. Within hours, every major outlet carried the headline, "A new prince for a new era." Crowds gathered outside palace gates, some holding signs that read, "Welcome, Prince James." The response was overwhelmingly positive. After years of scandals and departures, Britons found reassurance in a teenager stepping forward for service, not spotlight. Across the Commonwealth, the tone was equally warm. In Ottawa, Canadian officials praised the move as a reminder of stable succession. In Sydney, royal reporters called it the soft reset the crown needed. Even newspapers in Doha and Tokyo picked up the story, comparing Britain's steady transition to the uncertain futures of other monarchies. It was global proof that the Windsor family still carried quiet influence. Domestically, social media turned James into a trend. Within 24 hours, the hashtag Prince James reached over 1.2 million mentions. Young people posted comments like, "Finally, a royal who feels normal." For many, his acceptance represented hope, a bridge between old tradition and present reality. Behind the cheerful headlines, palace insiders sighed with relief. For the first time in years, coverage of the royal family was united in positivity. One senior aide told reporters on April 15th, "It feels like fresh air has entered the palace." International analysts agreed. The move restored continuity where chaos once reigned, proving Britain's monarchy could adapt while keeping its dignity intact. The world's applause, though comforting, only deepened the sense of responsibility within the palace. As the press cycle quieted, the King, William, and Catherine turned their attention to the next phase: how to integrate James steadily without overwhelming him. They knew his success wasn't about fame, but endurance. And in that realization lay the deeper truth. This moment wasn't only about titles or ceremonies, it was about securing the next half-century of the Windsor legacy through calm, conscious renewal. What this means for the future of the crown. By autumn 2025, the effects of James's decision were visible across royal life. Engagements once cancelled were now rescheduled. Appearances spread more evenly among the working royals. Prince William and Catherine finally had a younger ally for future decades. Insiders said the couple viewed James as the quiet constant, someone who would strengthen the royal foundation as their children. George, Charlotte, and Louis grew into their own roles. For King Charles III, it was vindication. His strategy of deliberate, steady renewal had succeeded where flashy reform might have failed. The Edinburgh legacy, rooted in Prince Philip's lifetime of service, was alive again, carried forward by a great-grandson who embodied both humility and resolve. Charles often told aides, "He reminds me why the monarchy works. Duty chosen, not demanded." Those close to him said the king found comfort knowing the next tier of leadership was secure. For the public, James's rise restored something intangible: faith. After years of headlines about division and scandal, Britons saw a reminder that heritage could coexist with honesty. The monarchy's continuity, long questioned, felt certain again. Polls released in September 2025 showed approval ratings climbing by 12%, the sharpest increase since the Platinum Jubilee. And for James himself, this chapter marked the beginning of his purpose, not its end. He wasn't crowned or celebrated with fireworks. He simply kept showing up. School one day, duty the next. His story became the quiet anthem of modern royalty: service without spectacle. In the long narrative of Windsor history, his name now stood as a symbol of balance, the prince who chose his path, and, in doing so, helped steady the crown for a new century. As winter approached, the lamps of Buckingham Palace glowed against the early dusk. Inside, new plans formed, not for grandeur, but for continuity. The king, satisfied, looked ahead to 2026, knowing the monarchy he would hand forward was anchored once more. In the quiet of that evening, a truth settled over the royal estate. Sometimes, history turns not through rebellion or crisis, but through a simple choice. One young man, one title, and the calm courage to say yes when the crown needed him most. The announcement may have arrived with little fanfare, but inside Buckingham Palace, it carried deep meaning. With the monarchy facing smaller ranks and heavier duties, James's decision restores strength where absence had left gaps. His new style, His Royal Highness Prince James of Edinburgh, revives a legacy once shaped by his grandfather, Prince Philip, whose devotion defined royal service for 7 decades. Observers see this moment as more than ceremony. It's strategy. King Charles III, approaching his 75th birthday, has long believed in quiet renewal. By encouraging younger members like James to step forward, he ensures that the royal family remains visible, relatable, and connected to modern Britain. For the public, the appeal lies in James's authenticity. There were no grand interviews, no spotlighted events, just a thoughtful choice made after conversations with his parents and guidance from Prince William and Catherine. It's monarchy built on consent, not command. And that resonates in 2025, when the public values humility as much as heritage. In the coming months, James will continue his studies at Bradfield College while preparing for early patronages linked to youth, environment, and education. His calm presence, free of scandal or spectacle, is already winning quiet admiration. As one palace aide put it, he reminds us that royal duty doesn't need to shout to be seen. In a world where tradition and modernity often clash, the youngest prince of the Windsor line has managed to bridge both by simply saying yes. His acceptance marks not just a return of a title, but a renewal of purpose for a crown still learning how to carry its past into its future.